Welcome to Chamber Music Northwest's Clarinet Virtual Masterclass. I'm sorry that we can't be together in person, but I'm so happy that we can still share music virtually. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Taylor Vorholtz Burbank, the Artistic and Community Programs Coordinator here at Chamber Music Northwest. It is a privilege to be joined today by David Shifrin. David is in his 40th and final season as Artistic Director for Chamber Music Northwest and has served as Artistic Director for Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center as well. Furthermore, if you read his bio, you will learn about his long and extensive career as an orchestral player, a chamber musician, recitalist, soloist, teacher, and artistic director for other arts organizations around the world. So thank you, David, for being here. We are also joined by three incredibly talented local clarinet players, Lily Belisle, Jacob Taylor, and Jackson Weiner. So thank you all for being here as well and for sharing your music with us. So before I hand it over to David to start this masterclass, I'm just going to give everyone a quick overview of how we will format this. So all three of our clarinet players have submitted 5 to 7 minute recordings of themselves playing some beautiful music. So I will first share at least part of their recording through the share screen option on Zoom. And then I'll give everyone 20 minutes to work with David individually. I ask that all panelists, when you're not working with David, if you could please mute your audio and video, just so all of our attendees here on Zoom webinar are only seeing David and the student that he's working with. So thank you so much, and I'll hand it over to David to say a few words before we show Lily's recording.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Nice to meet you all, and I have to admit I've listened to some of your recordings in advance just to get an idea, and they're all very good. The three of you play quite well, and it's going to be fun to hear some of it again now and comment. I think it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, that I wish I were there with you in person, but I'm grateful for this technology that allows us to do what we're doing. So let's get started.
Great. I will, oh, go ahead, David.
No, I was just gonna say, I understand that Lily is going first with Mozart. Is that correct?
Yeah, I will share her video now. And you can just wave me down when you'd like to stop it.
Okay. Very good. Where did everybody go? Oh, there you are, Lily. Beautiful playing. Really, very nice. And you're lucky to have your own orchestra. Thanks, Mom.
I
It's great. Very well done.
Thank you.
So, have you performed this?
No.
There's something to look forward to.
I really like the piece, yeah.
It's your own personal opera. So, Mozart, this was the first great piece for the instrument, and it's still the greatest. And in your estimation, what, and that's my opinion, which I hope you might concur with, but what makes this music so great? What do you think?
I think that it's the shifts in characters and the depth in the contrasts and kind of just the playfulness throughout.
That's a great answer. Exactly. So what I would love to work with you on, encourage you to do, is to really show those changes in characters and maybe talk about some of the ways that you can do that. One of the really obvious observations that you can make, and that I indicated with my remarks, is that your personal opera is that Mozart was at least as famous in his time and known forever as a great composer of opera, as well as all kinds of orchestral and chamber music. But there's this sense of lyricism in drama that crosses over from his vocal writing into his instrumental writing. And of course, in this piece, Mozart has discovered the clarinet and takes great joy in exploring its capabilities. It was the experiment in 1790 and 1791. And he will just turn on a dime from, a dance-like figure to the most incredibly introspective and expressive operatic figure, and then just turn it right back around to a fanfare. And you can do a lot more of that. For instance, the first phrase. If you think about all the clues are there in what your mom's doing and what the orchestra's doing.
Yeah.
You've got in the orchestra, it's the cello just playing yum bum 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 bum. You've got this beat, you've got this pulse going, and then you have the violins playing with you. A third lower, so it's this beautiful, buoyant sound, and you can reflect that in the way you just put the air through the instrument and articulate. I would love to hear maybe shorter notes on the articulated notes and a more clear beginning to the longer notes. Okay. Here's my warm up. So that, could you play the beginning, just the first 4 measures for me? Good. Zoom notwithstanding, you sound very good.
Thank you.
What really helps, I think, is to recognize what you need to do to get that buoyancy, to get the clear beginnings of sound, to have this tone speak on the short notes. And it's all in what you do with the wind. We think about how we're gonna tongue short notes and long notes, and that's relevant, but it's not the determining factor. You could actually play that phrase without touching the reed. I just sometimes like to illustrate by just turning the mouthpiece upside down. It doesn't quite sound as clear, but the point is that it's a wind instrument before it's a reed instrument, and the energy in the sound comes from what you do with the wind, not how you tongue the reed. And I could go take my piano apart for you over there and make the analogy, but you've got one right there in your house. Look inside sometime and just to remind yourself that the hammers are what you do with the wind, right? And that's what starts the note. And what your tongue is doing is the dampers. You just remove the tongue barely for the notes when you want to begin them and allow the wind to start the note. So what's going to make your articulation much more consistent is to really think of tone production as a three-part sequence. You breathe in and you breathe out. But in between is extremely important that after you breathe, there's a preparation of that wind, compression, and then controlled release, like on your favorite vitamins, right? So that you have to do very little with the tongue, and you just release the wind, and you find the resistance here, and you meet it. So that when you start that first phrase of the Mozart, what you hear is tone and not tongue. Not a ta, but whoa. One teacher that I had described that kind of attack as a hot knife going into butter, that it just starts. There's no resistance and there's no turbulence. It's just there. You try a few of those for me on that note?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Let's just make a few adjustments. Take a bigger breath. Take a moment to prepare it. Push the wind down. Feel how it's wanting to come out, and then allow it. Okay? Bigger breath, prepare, release. Okay, so I'm hearing the damper doing something to the string before the hammer hits it. It's this kind of, there's just a little, try to bypass that. Start the tone once without even don't even tongue the note. Start the note with the wind. Keep the tongue, this far from the reed, but not touching it, and try it with the wind.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's limitations to what we can do over the internet, but it sounds like you're not taking advantage of the whole length of the facing of your mouthpiece. If do you have a piece of paper handy?
Yes.
Of any kind? Okay, now don't break the tip of your reed, but if you can, just take the paper and without forcing, put it between the reed and the mouthpiece and see how far down it'll go. Try not to break the reed. Don't sue me for your best reed being destroyed. Make a mental note of where that is, and make sure that your lower lip is at least that far down.
Okay.
And maybe 1 millimeter further. And that's going to allow a little more freedom for the reed to vibrate. Sometimes we forget that, and then it's kind of like driving with the brakes on. So just maybe open up a little more and get a little further down the reed and try starting that note without the tongue.
Okay.
Okay, now the next thing that you can practice, we're not going to solve this in 20 minutes, but is starting a note, and it's best to practice on an open G, where you actually release the tone, but you don't release the damper. So your tongue is touching the reed, and then you release you pull the tongue back as slowly as you possibly can until the sound becomes clear. It'll start with a kind of a distorted sound, and then it'll clear.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be the entire extent of how much you move your tongue. Just do it faster, get it off the reed, but no further than that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot to take in, but you get used to those fundamentals, and then beginning of sound and shorter notes become much easier. And it's one of the issues that you always hear in the clarinet, that the articulation is inconsistent on different notes, different registers. But this, just remembering these fundamentals really makes it more under your control.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get that pop from the buildup of wind, then you know you're on the right track, because it's in a compressed air that you are then in control of. You ever fill up the air on your bicycle or car tires with a compressor at a gas station?
Mm-hmm.
And if you push the little button in the middle of it, it's there already.
Yeah.
And so we need to use that intake of air and compression as a tool, so that's your energy source for your sound. Mm-hmm. So how much time did I use up on that? So I would love to hear you play more, but I think if you use those tools to control your articulation, it could give you a much wider range of expression. Mm-hmm. And so that in a really buoyant section, really kind of a exuberant opening, you have the tools to bring the sound alive. And then several bars later, when you have this really introspective, quiet counter melody in the minor key, you then have the control to do that by being open enough to make the reed vibrate with less air. And then have a great opportunity for dynamic contrast, because that little minor interlude is then followed by almost a fanfare, right? A direct boom, boom, boom. So I encourage you to widen the spectrum of sound and colors and dynamics that as much as you can. Mm-hmm. And I wish there were more time.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
But it is a pleasure to hear you.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure we'll run into you again sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Thank
good,
you so much. No, that was super helpful. Yeah.
Good. Hi, Taylor.
Hello. Thank you so much, Lily. David, I've never worked with or seen you teach before, so it's so great to hear you and see you in this capacity.
Oh, that's nice. It's kind of my day job.
Yeah, kind of your day job, We are getting a little bit of feedback, I think, from your mic, so I don't know if you heard that.
From my mic?
I'm not sure if we'll We'll keep monitoring it, but
Does
I'll
it
let you
happen
know.
when I'm speaking or when I'm playing or
When you're speaking.
well, I can't mute it.
No, so I'll just let you know
Further
if it
away.
happens again.
Maybe I'll further away.
Yeah, that might help. Okay, well, while you're doing that, we can pull up Jackson's video.
Yeah.
Great.
I found something.
Oh, great.
Oh, what is that? A doorstop for a dollhouse?
Might as well be.
Yeah. No, good. Do you want to try it out? Have you played anything?
Today, no. Or yesterday, no. And the day before that, also no.
Oh, well, maybe we should just listen then. You know, I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. I found this read and I'm gonna play it.
Okay. But we're going to listen to your recording. So my suggestion to you is, since you've already heard your recording, that while we're listening, you should mute your Zoom, and you can warm up a little in case you play.
That is a fantastic idea.
Okay, great. We'll show your video now, Jackson.
That's very good. Really wonderful.
Thank you so much.
You had a chance to perform this even with piano, or?
No, not yet. I started playing it this summer.
Great. Well, good. You've done some really good work.
Thank you.
So let's see. Where are you in school?
Where Lewis and Clark? When I just finished my third year.
At Lewis and Clark. Good. Boy, that's a beautiful campus.
It sure is. Yeah, I wish I could go see it more in the summer. I hear it's really nice.
Oh, yeah. Where are you from? Are you from Portland?
No, I'm from California, the Bay Area.
Oh, that's pretty nice too.
Yeah.
So are you a clarinet performance major?
If there was such a thing, I'm just a music major, but I guess
Right, right. Yeah, at Lewis and Clark, I know it's a. But you have a terrific teacher and
I do have a terrific
really
teacher.
good school. So Copeland, it's become a real staple of the repertoire and probably the most important work for our instrument from the 20th century. And it reflects its time, right? In the really diverse influences that Copeland had in his writing. Copeland, even before he met Benny Goodman, was really immersed in theater music and jazz, and kind of invented his own Americana style of open harmonies. But he spent a really significant amount of time in Paris too, as a young musician, studying with Nadia Boulanger and interacting with the great French composers of the early 20th century. And the opening of this concerto, to me, sounds right out of Satie. Have you heard the Satie's Gymnopédie, just there's these really like slow motion waltzes,
Yeah,
for piano that are played on so many instruments. So the beginning of the piece is in that kind of a very kind of dreamy, slow, extended waltz. Boom, boom, and then when you start this cadenza, it's a reflection back to the beginning, but this time it begins to introduce the jazz element by syncopating that figure that starts out as a dreamy waltz. So all this by way of saying that when you get to the second beat of the first full bar of the cadenza and you have that eighth note on the beat.
Can I take a sec? I need to go grab. Can I go grab my music?
Of course.
I'm at school and I forgot to. I just realized that.
That's fine. Fine. Take your time. While you're doing that, I'll just play the beginning and then illustrate how it changes into the cadenza. So you have to kind of imagine the bass line and the accompaniment. One, two, three, and the beginning it's really sustained. Pick up to a quarter note, pick up to a dotted half. And everything on the beats. But then it sounds like it's going to go back to that after this extended first movement, slow movement. And then he just introduces the slightest bit of syncopation. Those displaced beats. So I think you can do more to show that within a really sustained, expressive line, to use the wind to make a more of an expressive accent. When you played it on the recording, it was hard to tell. To me, the test is whether you can take dictation. if you're hearing it for the first time, try to imagine you're hearing it for the first time, and whether you can tell the rhythm someone's playing enough to write it down. And to me, it almost sounded like dee da da dum, like 1, 2, and 3, rather than 3, 1, 2, 3, with the accent on the repeated note. You want to try that?
Sure.
As an expressive gesture, not an aggressive gesture, but expressive.
Okay. Let me give it a try. All right, maybe I didn't find the right read.
Yeah, just that much it's very good. It makes a difference. And then can you continue? La, da, da, dee, and then the C sharp. Tee, da, da, da. You got a lot of spaghetti there. Yeah. Yeah, and then it warms up, right? La, da, da, becomes more active.
A little broader.
For a while, and then it just fades out, and then you really start the cadenza. And there's a whole bunch of new material that is then introduced, and it's a kind of a unusual placement of a cadenza, where rather than being at the end of a movement where it wraps everything up, it's kind of foretelling what's going to come later. And I think the first hint is when he takes the opening theme like that at the beginning of the cadenza and introduces a few little syncopations. And then now we have this new motif with the arpeggio, with the it's still very, very legato, but it's starting to get a little more animated. And then it really goes, where you have this, you start to articulate more, and then you have a cello rondo, and then just.
David, you're muted.
Have I been just talking to air?
Just for a bit.
Somebody muted me, or I muted myself? You heard what I was saying, though, right?
You were talking about how it becomes more animated, and then you know, as you go into that, and then just before you started playing, I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Oh, I must have touched my mouse or something and muted, but just so that it heats up and then becomes incredibly rhythmic, but you have these hints before it starts.
Yeah.
So you have a really good handle on this. I think that what I would like to hear you do is extend your range of dynamics and difference in articulation, so that when it does really animate, it's more supported and more incisive. And there are places where you could do a better job of coordinating the fingers and the articulation, but not bad. What I would like to hear is more attention to the shapes of phrases and accents, because it starts out as this dreamy French waltz, and then it goes into almost an abstract Charleston, if we're going to keep talking, thinking of dance forms, because you've got this Charleston rhythm throughout, ba, 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 with the accent on the 4th, 8th note right before the strong beat. So And then ba 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 ba. So you can do a lot more of that. And then some of these really big places, you're getting the high notes just fine. So if you trust yourself and really put a lot more air through the instrument, then you get the added benefit of the clarion qualities of the clarinet, almost like a high trumpet up there when you just get to wail on those high A's and F sharps.
So you think I just need to trust myself and just use more air and just go for it?
Go for it, yeah, and move the air. It's the same thing I was saying to Lily, that that's your energy source, and you've got to think about how you're making it and then really use it. I don't know about overblowing the microphone, but and then I wanted to just remind you that F sharp, low F sharp, the accidental holds through. So,
Oh, shoot.
you know what I'm talking about?
After the breath mark, you mean?
Yeah.
It does. Okay.
Yeah, I think you played an F natural, the second one. Yeah. Or is it, I forget, is it G flat or F sharp? F sharp? You know what I'm talking about?
Where? What are you talking about?
Talking about the low note there. Before the
Well,
because you have that and the same note.
I thought since it was a new measure, it would be an F natural, but I will mark that.
Yeah, it's all kind of an extended long measure in the cadenza, right?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I will mark that. Oh, here's a pencil. Our apartment's a mess right now.
It's okay, I can't see it. All I can see is you and a lamp and a couple of things on the wall.
Yeah.
But if you can find a pencil, that's good.
Yeah, I found a pencil. Okay.
Good. So the rest of this cadenza it's played so many different ways by different artists, and I've seen people play an arrangement of it with a drum set, playing along with this jazzy rhythm, and I've heard people. Eddie Daniels plays this piece and just improvises his own cadenza.
Wow.
But I like to stay a little closer to what Copland wrote and try to animate it as much as possible, with bringing out the cross rhythms with the accented notes and playing with a great deal of contrast and animation. The high notes are really quite extraordinary. He wrote even more higher notes that Benny Goodman didn't want to play. Right. Oh, you know about that. Yeah. And if you go to the Library of Congress and look at the autograph of the score, Copland made some little notes that he crossed out the high C sharp and said too high for Benny, that kind of thing.
I'm grateful
too hard for Benny or something.
Yeah. Thank you, Benny.
Yeah. I play a few of those, but most of them I'm with Benny. I'll tell you, I'm okay with going up to the high A. Actually, it's a high B flat that we play at the very end of the piece, right? Mm-hmm. Or A sharp.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, you'll love it. It's great. Yeah, I hope it. Make sure your microphone's on the right setting, not to overload. So I think you have a really good handle on this. I would just encourage you to bring out the different characters more. I think that a really, really good way to practice these extended articulated passages is to practice them at half tempo and play the notes really short and practice moving your fingers to the next note immediately after you release the first note and before you articulate it, almost like an offbeat, like you've probably heard that method, but it really, really does help the coordination of the tongue, the articulation, and the fingers.
Do that. I've tried to do that before. It's very hard for me to get my like brain, you know, and like the fingering one note while I'm playing this one, you know.
Well, if you do it slowly enough and you give yourself enough time to plan your next move, it doesn't have to be half tempo. It can be slower. The main thing is to try to move the fingers as soon as you release the first note and then be ready for the next one. And it builds a conditioned reflex for articulating separate notes. It also helps to just practice it all slurred too, to see how even you're really playing it. So that way you can isolate whether it's an articulation problem or a finger problem or both.
Yeah.
All right, so you sound really good. I appreciate your work. I'm glad you found a read.
Yeah. Really quickly,
Yeah.
can I just ask you about the so for the tempo and like the, you know, the twice as fast and then the odd tempo, you know, those faster parts. How was it? Because I'd like to play it a little bit faster. But if you thought that if you think that tempo is okay, then I guess it's okay.
I think a tiny bit faster.
Yeah.
Because there's kind of a baseline of quarter note equals 120 in there, isn't there? That's pretty fast.
Yeah.
At least when that material comes later in the second movement after the cadenza, there are three basic tempos. There's 120, 132, and then later 144. Those are pretty subtle differences, the 120 to 132, and the string parts in this are really fiendish, and so you don't often actually hear it played up to tempo.
Yeah.
with orchestras.
Right. Someone told me that it's really hard.
But you know, you think of a Sousa march, right? Dun, 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 dun. You know, it is pretty fast. So you could play it a little bit faster, but don't play it faster than you can play it clean.
Of course.
And you know, practice playing it a little slower with really animated phrasing and articulation. And I'd rather hear you do that than just go for speed and then wind up practicing mistakes.
Right. I definitely don't want to go, you know, bite off more than I can chew.
Yeah, that. Good. So it's a pleasure to hear you. I think we'll move along.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
I really appreciate it.
Good luck. I'm sure we'll run into one another one of these days.
I love your recording of this piece. I love it a lot.
Well, thank you very much.
Go to, actually.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Jackson. So shall we move on to Jacob?
Jacob Taylor. Yeah.
Hey, look, got my first name as your last name. Alrighty, here we go.
Yeah, so you fantasize about being Taylor. Do you have a Taylor in your family as a family name?
Me?
No, Taylor Forholz Burbank.
I don't have a Taylor. That would be a pretty funny.
Is Taylor a family name anywhere in your lineage?
No, it isn't. No.
Great name. I have a friend named Jacqueline Taylor who was executive director at Lincoln Center when I was there, and she had a son and named him Taylor, but that's not her husband's name, so it's okay.
Okay, that's good.
Taylor. I did know a horn player named Howard.
Howard, that's great.
Played in the Metropolitan Opera. So meanwhile, Jacob.
Alrighty, well, let's share Jacob's video. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Jacob Taylor, and I'll be doing the Concertino by Weber. I will skip some of the measures, some of the longer measures, just for time's sakes.
I think we'll leave it there so we can talk about it. The rest, I love the rest of the piece too, but so very good. Have you played this with piano or orchestra or band?
I have not had the chance to do so. I kind of picked it up this year because I was about to perform it for a competition, which was canceled.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a lapse of time where I didn't play it at all until this came up, and so I thought I'd get back into it.
Good. You know, you can learn a lot from listening to recordings and sometimes playing along with different recordings. There are, you know, the old music -1 formats. There are a number of programs now online that where you can learn a piece in its full context. There are even some that have an algorithm that will follow you if you move faster or slower, and I think they're still working on that. But even just to grab a recording with orchestra and play along to get a sense of the colors that are there and the harmonies, and also get a sense of the pitch and intonation center. So what ensemble work have you done in school? What have you played in orchestra or band or chamber music?
So for the past 4 years, I've been in my school's regular band class. These past 3 years, I've been in a clarinet ensemble choir. This last year, I was in one and also a quartet. And then I've also played in the Metropolitan Youth Symphony, MYS.
Oh, so you have a lot of experience playing with others. One thing I did notice when I listened to your recording is that the pitch level is on the high side, and I got a tuner out just to check, and that most of it is up in the A444 range, which would be really great in Berlin or Vienna, but most of the organizations in the U.S. are more like 440 to 442, a little lower. And it could just be your mouthpiece or barrel or your equipment, but work with a tuner. I mean, you recorded this on your phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have access to really sophisticated tuner apps, right? And try to get in the habit of checking the level of pitch that you're playing, even just with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
To be fairly consistent, and it's going to vary tremendously. It looked like it was maybe it was very warm in the room you played in, which is going to drive
kind of sharp.
A little sharp,
especially in the room. It gets hot up this high on the second level.
Yeah. So, yeah, try to do something about it. Pull the barrel. What kind of mouthpiece is it?
I have a Van Doren, please, I forgot the name. Van Doren BD5.
Yeah, does it have a little 13 on the side?
I believe so.
I'm guessing not.
I don't see one.
No, because I really like that BD5. I love the sound and the
Black
response.
Diamond, yeah.
Yeah, the Black Diamond 5, but it comes in 2 models. And the one that doesn't have the 13 on the side is sharper, the one you're playing. So you can, I'm not trying to spend your money, but you can get the same facing and basic chamber and slightly different. I think it's a different internal chamber, slightly shorter. I mean, yours is slightly shorter. Get the slightly elongated one, which is just the BD5 number 13. Van Doren makes both of them, and the same reeds and response will play, but the other one will be a little bit lower if it turns out to be a problem. And I just noticed that I don't have perfect pitch, but I noticed just listening to you that it just sounded high, and so that's something to think about. The other thing, of course, you can do is play a little more open here Um, and try not to rely on too much pressure on the reed for making it respond, but on as much as possible, once again, on the velocity and direction of the airstream to start the sound. You know, it can make a big difference if you're clamping down and right, just being a little more open and a little more relaxed with the embouchure and getting the air in motion to get the response. So the other thing that I think you can listen to recordings and look at the score of this piece, even the piano reduction or the full orchestral score. It's all available for free online, right? And get a sense of how your part fits. And even when you're, I would say even or especially when you're playing a long note and there are other things happening when you have your first entrance on that B flat for 5 beats. There's a tension in the harmony that goes to the second bar, relents a little bit, and then leads into your first real motion going into the third bar. And I think that can be reflected more in what you do with the long note. Culminating in that F to the E, which is an appoggiatura and a resolution. And you can show that more with how you shape things with your airstream. You want to play that opening phrase for me again? Yeah, let's work on that attack. I suggest the same thing I was saying to Lily. Get further down the reed and you'll have more consistent response on attacks like that. Yeah. Okay. Would you make a crescendo to the second bar and then a diminuendo in the second bar? It's probably not exactly what's in your part.
Make it more obvious.
Oh yeah. We're never really doing as much as we think we're doing to get across the stage to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Much better. And I think you could even do more at the end of that phrase. Weber owes a lot to Mozart. Besides the fact that they were related by marriage. But the inspiration, I think, for writing for the clarinet is very much a lineage from Weber to Mozart. This was written only 20 years after Mozart's concerto. And Weber was also, like Mozart, was a virtuoso pianist, but was most known for his opera and really took the whole theatrical nature of opera to another level from Mozart, and his enormously emotive operas, Oriente and Oberon and Freischütz, are things you can listen to also and get a sense for the lyric qualities that he asks of the clarinet, in addition to the virtuoso things. And this introduction can be so expressive and really, I don't want to use the word exaggerate so much, but really project those ideas and flesh them out. And really think about when you are an instrument that is emulating a voice, and where you don't really want to sound like a clarinet, you want to sound like a soprano or a tenor or a baritone, which is what these composers were really enjoying writing for. The clarinet that has this tremendous range. You could be a soprano one moment and then you're not going to find too many sopranos that have that kind of chest voice that can go down that low. So you can kind of hear that Weber, the opera composer, was really enjoying having a voice that can do that. But you want to be that voice, not just a clarinet playing those notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So play the beginning again. Before you play the phrase, just let's do a little exercise where we go 1, 2, 3, and play that note. 1, 2. Yeah. Okay, just like that, and play the phrase.
Got it.
Okay. Got lucky the first time, huh?
Yeah.
Again, you increase your odds of success if you just remember where the facing of the mouthpiece starts and get your lower lip below it. Yeah. Okay, so I like to think of phrases sometimes in a visual way, and think of an arch. Like you want to have an arch that builds to that appoggiatura, and in order for it to sustain. And right now, what it sounds like to me is that the F is just suddenly placed and it's not supported, and it would be if you really increase the sound and intensity on the dotted rhythm before it, more on the D, for instance. Just play that. Yeah, you don't need so much on the F, but we need more direction before it on the D. Right, now sometimes I can't tell if you're rushing or slowing down because Zoom does that. But try one more time and try to play the same inflection, but really even rhythmically. Okay, something to think about. Nuance and phrasing in almost a visual way that you can feel it rise and fall. And then, most importantly, think about your airstream as something visual. Imagine you can see the wind. You can get a sense of how big an airstream it is and how fast it's moving. You know, this is all obviously in your head, but having that kind of a visual reference give you a chance to really think about the sounds you're making and have a line in the phrase that you can place the notes on, rather than just blowing and playing the notes and trying to adapt. Have a concept where you build it. This kind of thing is much easier to teach for a string instrument because you can see the correlation with what player does with the bow, with what you're seeing. But our airstream is invisible, but you can use your imagination, or you can use little tools like a piece of paper and about 15, 18 inches away, and practice your airstream and try to make the paper go at a particular angle and hold it. Without flapping around, huffing and puffing. But it takes a certain amount of control, and it is one way to visualize something that is invisible, kind of like the Invisible Man putting on a coat, right? Mm-hmm. That to help you with really having more of a concept of the shape of phrases. So then going on, the theme, you played really well, and somehow you were, now that didn't come out the way I wanted to. You used the wind very well in the theme, better than in the introduction, and the articulations were clear and not distorted. I think that it's a very buoyant kind of a theme, in certainly in contrast to the minor key, the C minor variation, to the E flat major theme, and the different kind of a accompaniment. But when you turn the phrase, you can make more of a point of return, which is then going to come in every single variation, which is reflects the structure of the theme. I'm trying to get to this point. It's like a little bit of magic, the deception, like where are we going? Oh yes, we're going back to the beginning. Mm-hmm. And you can just do more of those things with the wind to show. So when you play these variations, it's a really good starting point to try to think of that airstream that you've built to play the theme, and have a very similar structure for the variations. The best example of that is the triplet variation. To really have it be the same shape as the theme. So then, I'm jumping around, but to really have the contours echo what you did in the theme. So I'm not looking at my chats here, but I have a feeling that we might be a little close to ending time.
Yes, we are. We have like a minute left if you want to wrap things up.
Well, I think I said what I most wanted to say to each of you. Of course, we could go on for hours, but we're not going to do that today. But if you have a quick question, anybody?
Well, we did have a question from the chat that was relayed to me. Someone watching wants to know what your clarinet setup is.
Okay. That's the bell. No, I'm sorry. This Bakun Lumiere clarinet. and it's darkened, but it's cocobola wood that started out much lighter, but over time it gets darker and darker, and probably over zoom it almost looks like grenadilla, but it's started out light brown. And the reeds I'm playing are synthetic by Leger, and I resisted doing that for a long time until I started experimenting with combinations of reed and mouthpiece, because my reeds just didn't, my mouthpiece just didn't work with the Leger plastic synthetic reeds. But then when I started trying different combinations of them, I found it really made a big difference. And commercially available mouthpieces, that BD5 really works well with the Leger reeds. So that's something that I suggest to some students, although different people get different results with different equipment. But I like that. This is not a BD5, but it plays very similarly to it. It's a mouthpiece that you really can't find anymore. They're not really making them like this. It's Kuckmeyer from Austria, called the Play Easy B2 or something. But it's been worked on and rebored, but just something that you can get easily. I really do like those BD Black Diamond 5s. That's my equipment setup. Rovner ligature.
Great.
Anybody?
Yeah, panelists, do you have any other questions? You can feel free to unmute your video.
Oh, reveal yourself. Come on.
Reveal yourself.
I don't think I have anything right now.
Great.
Okay, then.
Well, thank you so much, David, for leading this masterclass.
Well, thank you for organizing it, and thanks to the three of you for playing. Lost Lily there, but oh, there you are. Hi. It's a pleasure to meet you all and to see you and hear you. So good luck.
Thank you very much.
Stay well.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And
Bye-bye.
for everyone watching, we have one more virtual masterclass next week with Sarah Helen O'Connor at flute masterclass, as David is showing us, next Saturday at 11 a.m. So I encourage you all to tune in for that. So, and thank you so much for everyone. Thank you for David being here, and thank you to all our students. And thank you for our attendees for watching.
Bravo.
Bravo.
Great play.
Thanks so much, and we will see you all soon.